Halloween is something that used to mean a lot more to me when I was a kid. Nowadays, Halloween really just means it's time to watch some of the best of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror specials, and really not much else. As much as I love video games, I don't really have many options there either. I don't play horror games at all, so the amount of spooky games actually available to me is pretty limited. This also means the annual tradition of every YouTuber doing something Halloween-y is something that's hard for me to fulfill. Enter Pumpkin Jack, a Halloween-themed 3D platformer that takes inspiration from Medieval. Now that's one of those games I've been meaning to play for ages, but just haven't. But despite never playing the game this one took inspiration from, I was still pretty intrigued. I first discovered this game through what I think was a Nintendo Life article maybe a month ago, and it immediately caught my eye because it was a Halloween-themed 3D platformer. And aside from Jersey Devil on the PlayStation 1, I can't think of any games that fit that description, so yeah, I was immediately intrigued. Pumpkin Jack is an indie game that's developed by one guy, Nicolas Maisonneur. I am so sorry if I mispronounced that, which I probably did. It's apparently French and I'm a stupid American. Anyway, this guy made the game on his own in the span of 4 years, and oh my god, how? When I think of games that were developed by one person, I think of like Cave Story or Undertale. I mean, I don't mean to downplay how good those games are because they really are, but Pumpkin Jack clearly has a lot more work put into it. And to me, the fact that one guy did all of this is nothing short of witchcraft. Like, seriously, look at this! It is very worth mentioning that while Nicholas made the game himself, Adrian Lucas ported it to consoles, because yes, while I'm playing this on the PC, it is available on everything else, including the Switch, though apparently the PS4 version isn't coming out for a couple months, so sorry if you're a PS4 user. Now enough backstory, onto the video. Before I talk about the story, I just want to point out that all the bits of story in this game are told with these scenes with sketches on a table with a narrator explaining everything. And that's the only example of voice acting in this game. Other than that, it's all just text boxes. I don't really find this to be an issue because it's an indie game. Indie games tend to cut corners somewhere, and that's where this game does it, so, you know, it's fine. But I just felt it's worth pointing out. Oh, and it's where the text boxes make the Mario coin sound effect in the newer games. Am I crazy? Okay, the actual story of this game is Earth is at peace and everyone is happy. Except Satan. The devil himself is bored beyond belief because of the lack of any kind of danger at all, so he decided to raise the dead for funsies. Weirdly enough, the humans do not consider this funsies. Humanity then fights back by receiving help from the wizard, and it works out pretty well for a while, until the devil sent out Jack, a spirit who has a flaming pumpkin for a head after him. And the overall main goal of this game is to kill the wizard to continue making life all around pretty bad for humanity. Jack himself is actually based off an Irish legend, so I guess it's kind of cool that they base a game around that, but at the same time, he tricked the devil like 3 consecutive times, and he's still trusted in this game. I don't know what's up with that. I don't know, maybe that legend isn't canon to this game. I'm thinking too deeply. Oh yeah, if you're wondering why all the enemies still attack you in this game despite technically being on your side, it's because they're so dumb that they can't tell anything apart from anything, so they just blindly attack whatever moves, and I just think that reasoning's funny. I actually really like this plot because you're the bad guy. Your ultimate goal is to help Satan and make life a literal living hell for all of humanity. How often do you play as a character that's just that evil in a game like this? Jack himself, despite, you know, working for the devil, is a super likable character. He's really sarcastic around absolutely everyone, and when he's not, he's calmly threatening bodily harm. It's great. Seriously, the writing in this game can genuinely be really funny. There's some self-aware jokes I wasn't really a fan of, but other than that, I actually loved it. The wizard himself, despite being the good guy, still acts like a villain. Like, he says passive-aggressive things to Jack all the time and is overly confident. In short, he acts like a stereotypical villain, which would normally make him a boring character, but since he's technically the good guy in this game, it kinda just flips the concept on its head, and I like that. There's plenty of other characters you meet on the way. There's the tutorial owl, this crow that tags along because Jack killed a demonic scarecrow for him, this guy that peels the skin off of corpses and sells them to you as unlockable skins. That concept is just so funny to me. Santa Claus. Oh man, I think my favorite character is this fairy guy. Every time he takes you across the river with his boat, he asks for a tip, and Jack just casually threatens violence against him. I especially love the last interaction. I'm so glad we have this friendship. The characters and writing have a lot of charm, and I think it adds a lot to this game. The actual gameplay is pretty standard. Like I said before, it's a 3D platformer, and a solid one at that. There's plenty of fun level design in this, mixed with puzzles, chase scenes, and combat. Okay, this was my number one concern about this game going in because I can count the amount of 3D platformers I've played that handled combat well on a fist. Thankfully, I actually liked it in this game. I'm not going to say it's amazing, it's pretty simple and a bit too button mashy, but I feel it does have enough satisfying elements going for it, and the moments you do have to fight are brief and spread out, so I never found it to get stale like I have in so many other games. There's 5 main attacks you can do in combat: the normal attack, the dodge roll, attack out of a dodge roll, jump attack, and you can even launch your crow companion at enemies. This is mostly used outside of combat, doing things like causing towers to fall over or opening gates as you're being dragged along with a gargoyle. But you can still do it as an attack, though I really only found it to be useful against these skulls that shoot out fire, and I especially found it to be useful against these trees in the Christmas level. I mean, more so as a stun rather than an attack, but still. Throughout the game, you unlock different weapons every time you beat a boss, and there's 5 in all. You start off with a shovel in the beginning of the first level, but then you quickly get cooler things like a scythe, a death ball I guess, a sword that has the added benefit of giving you a cool floating animation, and even a shotgun. They're mostly not too dissimilar from each other, yes, even the shotgun. The only major difference among them is the jump and dodge roll attacks are different, but the main attacks don't vary a ton. There's also bosses in this one, and I actually enjoy them quite a bit. They're still pretty standard, all of them have the typical 3 hits and they're dead thing, with the fight getting harder with each hit. Even so, I found these bosses fun because figuring out how to deal damage to them and pummeling them in general was just satisfying. The only thing is, none of them really put up any kind of challenge except maybe the final boss actually died in that one. I still enjoyed these, but a slightly higher difficulty would have been nice. The main focus of this game is absolutely with the platforming and exploration, and I feel it's well designed. The game is mostly linear, but the level design still often contains open areas with plenty of secrets on the way. By far the most common secret would be the crow skulls. Crow skulls, I meant crow skulls. There's 20 of them in each of the 6 levels, and you find them by looking into nooks and crannies and taking side paths, and some of them only unlock once you take out a herd of enemies. You need these if you want to unlock extra skins, but if you don't care about them, you can just easily ignore them. I personally like them. Exploring to me was fun, the skins are a nice incentive, and I always enjoy the interactions between Jack and the skin seller. There's also 1 hidden gramophone location per world, and when you find them, you get this little dance scene. I found 4 of the 6 in this game, and honestly, I have no idea what they do. I would assume I would find out if I got all of them, but I didn't, and I can't find anything on the internet because the game is so new. So yeah. But you know what? I like seeing Jack's moves, and that's a reward in of itself. There's also a hidden skeleton band at the beginning of the level. It doesn't do anything, but it's fun. As for the actual platforming, I really don't have a ton to say. It's just solid. There's plenty of variety in what you're doing, it's just that nothing in particular stands out a ton. As in, I've seen this kind of stuff in plenty of other games, but it's still handled well in here, so if you liked it in those games, you'll like it here. Even if it's not the most creative thing, I think it's still fine. The game is short enough to where even if it's not the most creative thing, I believe it never gets anywhere close to boring. My one issue with the platforming is the jumping. The actual ground movement I think is fine, but the jumping takes some time to get used to. You don't have a lot of control in the air and it just generally feels awkward making jumps like this happen. The game thankfully is built around this limiting jump, so I never got frustrated over this or anything. And it's honestly not hard to get used to. I'd say by the end of the first level I got used to it, but there's still no denying that the game would have been better if the jump just was, good and not all weird and floaty. They do other things to spice the game up, like there's this forest where if you take the wrong path, you die. The way you know which way won't result in your death is the safe paths don't have crows with glowing red eyes beside them. My problem with this part is the game doesn't exactly tell you this, so you just kind of have to figure that out on your own. But to do that, you're gonna have to die at least once, and I'm just not a fan of that. The minecart section has a similar issue. You have to lean left or right to stay on track, but the only indication of this are the 2 tiny arrows on either side that I completely missed. So I died 2 consecutive times for seemingly no reason. But once you know how these work, they can be a lot of fun. There's a few other chase scenes like this, like there's a horse that flies through the sky, there's a part where you're running through a barn that's on fire, there's another part where a gargoyle grabs you and you fly through the sky. The only one I didn't like would be this trolley race. To go as fast as possible, you have to mash the A button, and not only did that just hurt my thumb, but also triggered my Canary Mary PTSD. I think the second one glitched out on me because there weren't any other racers, and I was complimented on my racing abilities, and thank you. I think my favorite one like this isn't exactly a chase scene, but still kind of like an auto-scroller, so I'm still going to talk about it in this part. There's these boat sections where enemies will come to fight you. The boat will do things like sink, turn upside down, or phase through walls, and you have to either jump to another boat or find an alternate way around, and these ones were probably my favorite reoccurring challenges. I mentioned earlier that I feel that platforming in this game isn't anything too original, but I feel like this is the one exception. These parts are really cool. And lastly, we have the parts where Jack rips off his own head and stuffs it down somewhere he couldn't get to otherwise, and I hate how there's a neck snapping sound effect every time. That freaks me out. These parts tend to be more puzzle-oriented. I mostly enjoy these, but I thought the memory ones were a massive pace breaker. But hey, Eric Cartman is canonically dead in this universe, so that's cool, I guess. The other ones are a lot better and tend to be quick challenges that involve things like getting a bomb across the room or killing Santa Claus. Yeah, that's the thing in this game. There's a Christmas-themed level, and you kill Santa Claus 2 separate times. I like how the crow questions if they're the bad guys, as if they aren't currently murdering this man that just wants to bring joy to children due to the command by Satan himself. The level theming in this game is actually pretty strong. You might think otherwise because everything has a haunted theme to it, but there's more to it. Like, yeah, you're always in a haunted place, but it's not just haunted. Like, you might be in a haunted abandoned mine, you might be in a swamp, you might be in a graveyard, you might be in a village, you might be in Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, and admittedly some of these level types are, you know, expected, like of course it's gonna be a graveyard. There are more unexpected stuff that I just listed off, like again, who expected a Christmas level? I didn't. I really like what's here, and I really do feel like each of these levels completely nailed the spooky theming, and what really helps with that is the graphics. This game looks really nice, the lighting, the details, the colors, everything about this game's graphics adds so much to the atmosphere. And what's crazy about this isn't even the best the game can look. This game supports ray tracing, meaning things like the lighting and reflections can look way better. I mean, just look at this difference from this trailer. I don't own an RTX card, so I wasn't able to take advantage of this without suffering from some major frame drops, but if you do have one, then you're definitely in for a visually pleasing time. Even if you don't, I still think this game looks great, and again, it blows my mind that this game was made by one guy. How? Honestly, this game came out of nowhere, and I mostly just bought it because I heard it was a short Halloween-themed game, and considering I'm kind of in between stuff, I'll talk about that at the end of this video. I thought that'd be perfect for now, but like, I didn't expect much when I actually bought it, but when I played it, oh my god, it ended up being a lot of fun. However, it's still a pretty standard 3D platformer. Nothing about this game is particularly unique to it. But I do think what it does very well, and the charm of it, you know, being Halloween themed, the writing, stuff like that is what makes it worth playing to me. But if that stuff doesn't seem like it would interest you, then maybe skip this, but otherwise, yeah, please play it. It's actually a lot of fun. And I think what helps making this game as fun as it is, despite not being the most original thing, is that it's only about 4 hours long, so even though it's not the most original experience ever, it doesn't go on for too long. However, it being 4 hours long and $30 will be a sticking point for some, I'm sure, but personally, I think it's worth it. And if it isn't to you, then at least put in your wish list on your preferred platform and wait for a sale or something, because I do think it's worth playing if, you know, this sounds interesting to you. Like I said before, this game is only about 4 hours long and it's $30, so I know that might turn off some people, but I think it's worth it. When it comes to Halloween 3D platformers, I really don't think you can do much better. It's available on PC, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and a PS4 version is on the way. I don't have the Switch version, so I can't cover that like I normally would, but it looks really nice from what I've seen, and I don't think you're missing on really anything if you buy that one instead, so yeah, that's not a bad option. Go for it if you want to. So, video done, and I know I keep on talking about the Sonic Marathon, how that's coming next. I'm gonna stop saying that because I don't know at this point. It's gonna happen. I already have most of the script for the first video done. I have most of the footage recorded, but I don't want to do it until I have a better camera, and at this point, I don't know when that's happening. It's gonna happen. I'm not gonna get into it, so, what I will say is the Sonic Marathon might start next, it might not. I might find some other video to do first. We'll see. Anyway, yeah, that's why this camera is still poop, despite me saying it should be better next part. But it's not. Anyway, video done now, and happy Halloween! Bye!